Welcome to SIS Stories. This is Miss Bacigalupo's English 10 class, storytelling under the theme, Enter, Return. This is Eve. Listen to her tell about what it was like to move away from the home where all of her childhood memories were made.
Unlike most of the people in this room, I had been living in the same exact house ever since I moved to Shenzhen when I was just 3 years old. Jingshan Villa, Whale Garden Street, house number 8. I had made all my childhood memories in that home. I had measured my growth on the wall. I had hid pizza under my bed from my parents. I had snuck out of my room in the middle of the night for a midnight snack. I had dropped glasses, made scars, and made countless more memories. That house was my home. Until one ordinary day, during a typical everyday dinner, my dad spoke out 2 words: "We're moving." And as any hormonal teenage girl would, I cried. I cried and I cried and I cried. Leaving that house felt like I was leaving my childhood. I always knew that I would have to leave. In the back of my mind, I always knew that I would have to leave that house someday, but I'd never had to think about it before. And the worst part about moving was that I'd have to clean my room. My room where I'd been stuffing drawers with useless souvenirs, trinkets, pens, stamps, Post-its, and all the other fun stuff a hoarder like me could never get rid of. My small pink Daisy Duck stamp that I deemed my favorite out of my entire collection when I was around 8. The small white box that I covered with stickers and filled with small shells. The rocks that I painted on a trip to the Philippines, and the fabric paint that I had got when my DIY obsession was in full swing, and the many other things that held a special place in my heart. Regardless of that, I managed to pack my entire room into a few cardboard boxes, some of them still not unpacked to this day. But I watched as the big blue truck pulled into my driveway. This is it, I thought. A few months later, I was jogging through Jingshan with my friend Sierra like I sometimes did on Sunday afternoons. "Let's go by my old house," I told her. "I want to see if anyone's living there." And so we jogged all the way up the hill to my house, and to my relief, it was as empty as it had ever been. It was strange to see my house look so dull and bare, yet I was relieved that there wasn't a new family living in it, oblivious to all the memories that had been made inside that house. The mossy stones and the stained walls made it obvious that it was an old house, and the empty lifelessness of it made it look even worse. I remembered that I had left a window a little bit open right before moving out. At the time, I didn't know why I felt the need to leave a window open, but now I knew that it's because it gave me a sense of hope that I would come back someday, that this house wasn't entirely gone from my life. And so I walked up to the window, pushed it open, and to my surprise, it slowly creaked open. I looked over at Sierra and then back at the window, and I crawled in slowly, one leg at a time. My basement looked so empty, and I remembered how it used to be, filled with fishing and diving equipment, coats from the 1900s, and the many other random things that found their home in that basement. But now, the only thing left was a small wardrobe standing there in the corner, which was now completely covered with dust. I walked up the steps into my living room. The only thing there was my aquarium, empty and sad. I remembered how excited I used to be as a kid when my dad would take my brother and I to this big fish store and would let us choose whichever fishes we wanted for our aquarium. But now the aquarium just looked displaced, alone in the vast, empty living room. Then I walked into my room. I felt the walls and pictured what it had looked like before with a painting that I had gotten for my 10th birthday on the wall. The painting was of a tree with heart-shaped leaves. I used to look at it every night as I drifted into sleep. I remembered what my room had looked like, with red and white curtains, the desk, the chair, and the little girl who sat on the bed. I used to run around that house playing tag. I remember when I used to run around that house playing tag, when I would watch Wizards of Waverly Place after school, back when we barely had any homework. and complaining about our small square TV not working on typhoon days when my brother and I would sit in our parents' room and watch Cartoon Network for the entire day. Standing there in my room, tears started to form in my eyes, and that's when I remembered that my friend Sierra was standing right there next to me, her eyes wandering around my empty, empty room. And so I painfully held back my tears and wandered around the rest of my house, more and more memories fleeting through my mind. After I went back to my apartment, I realized why going back to that house had made me feel so emotional. It was a question that I have struggled with throughout my entire life. Where's home? I have never owned a house. I have never lived in my home country. In my entire childhood, I have always been uncertain about where life was going to take me next. And so I got attached to that house with the mossy stones and the stained walls. That house was my home. But now, I didn't know what it was to me anymore. But maybe home doesn't have to be a place with a door and a roof. Maybe home can be a sense of safety, a comforting look from your mom, a hand to hold on to, a song, or even a feeling.